Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom and welcome back to my workbench. Today we're going to do part 2 of repairing my Commodore 128, and if you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure you check that video out. I'll put a link to it. That way you know where we're starting from. I mean, I'm just a retro computer enthusiast, I'm not an expert. How bad can I screw this up? As with any good retro computer restoration video, we have to start by opening up our computer. I've talked about this before in part 1, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We need to remove the keyboard and the LED from the top of the case and the motherboard from the bottom. That's about it on the C128. Now for cleaning the computer up, for the bottom RF shield, I just took a minute and washed it down with some dish soap and a sponge and left it out to dry. There really wasn't a whole lot to do here. There were some marks I was hoping it might clean up, but it didn't do anything. More of the same for the bottom of the case. It's just soap and water and a little bit of elbow grease. I like these two-sided sponges I get from Home Depot because the green scrubby side isn't super abrasive, so I'm not worried about it damaging the plastic. The top of the case, however, was a completely different story. What I thought was going to be some simple to remove sticker residue wasn't. I mean, it is sticker or tape residue of some kind, but it is extra sticky, and it's actually pulling the abrasiveness out of the sponge rather than the other way around. So I got a plastic putty knife that I usually use for taking stickers off of things, and started to scrape with that, and it still wasn't terribly useful. It took a lot of elbow grease to get this really knocked down. Even with all of that, I was just frustrated with it and decided I'm going to take care of the tape next, and I'll come back to it. The little bits of tape I found came off relatively easily. Hit it with a little bit of soapy water, boom, done. Coming back to that sticker residue now that you can see is all full of the green from the sponge, I thought I could hit it with some orange oil cleaner, some citrus cleaner, but that didn't really help. So finally I went back downstairs and got the bottle of isopropyl alcohol and hit it with that. It started to come up a little bit more easily. It still took a little bit of elbow grease, but I got there. I have no idea what that residue is from, but it was tough. I just threw everything outside on my back deck to dry and went on with my day. There's some apparent water damage to this cardboard sheet that goes between the motherboard and the RF shield, but there's not a whole lot I can do about that. Thanks to Tim over at Commodore Bench. Not sponsored, but find a link to his store below. I now have a diagnostic harness, which I didn't have in part 1, and I'm going to hook it up to the 128 and run the diagnostics. My only complaint was one of the 8-pin cables was like half an inch too short, but I had some others around and one of them was long enough. With the harness in, all of the results that showed up as bad last time will be good this time, hopefully. I think I might be the first person who's upset that their diagnostic came back with no problems, because I was really hoping there was something major that was keeping it from loading software before. Since apparently everything works, I'm going to go ahead and remove the harness, and since I got some thermal paste on my hands while I was working here, I'm going to clean up all these chips before I go any further. So one thing I wanted to do, since I'm planning to use this as a daily driver, was to put the ClearVideo 128 in to help remove the jailbars and just make the picture look a lot cleaner. Removes the RF modulator and some interference. I had originally planned to actually document installing it, but now that I'm looking at all 37 steps and gone back through, realized, no, there's definitely a reason why everyone just says, here's a time lapse, enjoy. And so, here's a time lapse, enjoy.
(3:28 a.m.)
Alright. So I'm glad I did this while I was on vacation, and stay up till 3 a.m. wasn't a problem. I have installed, adjusted, removed, reinstalled the ClearVideo 128 several times. 3 times now? Yeah. And I'm just getting nothing. No signal, no anything. I think I screwed something up, but I think I'm too tired to look at it. Yeah, we're going to go with that. So after a night's sleep and some breakfast, I came back to it and started testing again. I found the 9-volt rail shorted to ground, which seemed kind of odd because there aren't a whole lot of things that use the 9-volt rail, but I was trying to track down where the short was, figuring it was probably my fault. I noticed very quickly when I took the capacitor out that the short was gone, so it's like, oh, first thought was, must be a bad cap, even though this is a brand new one I just installed. So I ripped it out, put in a new cap. Nope, it's right back there. But that means it's on one side of the cap or the other, and I very quickly realized I probably accidentally made a solder bridge on the 9-volt input on the ClearVideo 128, and once I threw it under the microscope, I could see just enough of a touch that, yeah, I had bridged it, took that out, cleaned it up, everything worked great. Unfortunately, the bridge rectifier actually overheated and melted the solder and popped itself out of the board, which I'd never seen before, and I didn't have the camera on at the time, otherwise I would show you what happened. So even though I fixed the short, I still need to install a new bridge rectifier, and I don't have one on hand.
4 to 6 days later.
My Jameco order actually got here in about 2 days, but I was out of town, and this is when I got back to it. I don't need these switches or this resistor net right now, but we do need some bridge rectifiers, and I just made sure to buy a bunch in case I ever run into something like this again. Alright, let's plug in our power. With the ClearVideo 128, this looks pretty impressive in person considering I haven't tuned it or dialed it in at all. And unfortunately, I can't do that right this moment because I need some plastic CRT tuning tools in order to do it without any interference. One last thing to deal with before we can call this daily driver condition is that return key that doesn't work. I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but the trace from one of the pads for the return key is just gone. Looks corroded away, but nothing around it is also corroded, so I don't know. We're just going to bridge it and see if that fixes it. I put the Commodore 128 back together now that the keyboard's repaired, and I learned something with the RetroTink that it doesn't auto-detect S-video because it still sees the chroma signal coming through as if it was coming on composite or on green for component. So you have to press the button to tell it that it's an S-video, and now everything seems to be working fine. But my inner key works again, so I'm going to call this a win. Well, this has been quite the experience. I screwed up installing the ClearVideo 128, shorted everything to ground, burnt out a bridge rectifier. That's new. But I do have an up, running, working, very happy Commodore 128. I can play some Petsky robots on it. And hopefully, in the very near future, I'll be taking it online. Assuming I can find a Wi-Fi modem that isn't $100 million. But we're working on that. Anyway, this took longer than I expected it to, and there were some other things I wanted to do in this video, but just I wanted to get it done and up and let you guys see it. So everything from here on out is quality of life improvements, now that it's working and functional, and I know it works well. So if you have any suggestions for great quality of life improvements I could do to this machine, make sure you put them in the comments below. Otherwise, I've got a couple ideas for things I want to do, and you'll see them next time. See you later. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and press that subscribe button in the center of the screen. I've also got a couple other videos I think you might enjoy.